Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey.
Good.
We're good?
I'm good.
All right. We're at the Harbor House Collective talking about Boston Cannabis Week.
Yeah, shout out Harbor House, one of BCW's partners for this year. We're so excited that they're involved.
All right. Let me take a drink. We aren't starting yet. I like to do a bunch of false starts before I really start. No, thank you, Lisa, for coming on. It's so I'm happy we got to do this.
Yes.
When I first heard about Boston Cannabis Week, I was excited about it, and I saw the lineup, and I was like, "Oh, now I have to go." And then we met at the DJ Muggs event.
Okay.
At
Right.
True.
That was at True Leaf.
Yeah, and then I really found out about it.
Yeah, awesome.
So how did Scott's not here, but how did Boston Cannabis Week come together? How did you and Scott meet?
So I met Scott a few years back. I was the booking agent at Hard Rock Boston, and I started booking basically 90s hip hop acts there. So we did Happy Roots and a bunch of other artists, and then I booked Redman for a show there. And during the Redman show, this guy, my now business partner, crashed the VIP. And I was like, who are you? And he said, I work at the time, he was working with the Freedom Rally. And he said, would you be interested in working with the Freedom Rally to book Method Man and Redman this year? And I said, sure. So that was in 3 months. So 3 months later, we raised all the funds. We booked Method Man and Redman for the Freedom Rally, did a free show. During the Freedom Rally, we did the show in Boston Common with them, booked some of the other talent on that lineup. And during that time, my now business partner, Scott, was like, we should be doing a week of events. It should be like Fashion Week, but Cannabis Week, like all different types of events of different sizes that cater to different audiences. And we started planning it in 2016. We launched officially in 2019, and now we are in our 4th year.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So you came into it as a music booker.
Yeah, my background's in music, and
see, I had no idea about that and rap music too.
Yeah.
Well, you work at Hard Rock, but you were booking a lot of rap.
Yeah. Prior to that, I was the brand and PR manager for Leeds Edutainment. So he did all the hip hop shows at Middle East and Cambridge and Church and FET and Providence. So I was working in hip hop for a while before that, but it's also the music I've always listened to.
Yeah.
So we, once I wasn't working for Leeds anymore, I was still booking shows. I launched Experience Creative. That was my own brand that I was doing booking and creative services for artists. And that business was up and running for 5 years until COVID. And then I said, I'm just going to put all my efforts into Boston Cannabis Week. So
how did you get into booking first? Because, all right, Boston Cannabis Week is 4 years old, but there was a lot of time that had to make up to getting there.
Yes. So I've been a hip hop head since I was 13 years old. First CD was Doggy Style, and so I was like Snoop and Wu-Tang.
Family music, or were you?
No. This was the music I'd get in trouble for listening to. Constantly got CDs taken away and that kind of thing. But
smoking weed at that time too.
Yeah, I started when I was, we'll say 14.
Wow. Yeah. I started when I was 18. I was a late bloomer.
Yeah, so I started younger, and but it wasn't like what it was now. It was like, hanging with friends. We all thought it was cool, whatever.
Wait, what is it now?
now it's, for me, it's way more of a medicinal function and way more of a lifestyle function, and not just like something to do because it's cool, but we were working, so I was working with Ned, left, wasn't working with Leeds Edutainment anymore, launched Experience Creative, was doing these shows, and then later on that morphed into BCW. I've also been doing media buying and marketing throughout my career.
When you were like 13, 14, listening to rap, smoking weed, Did you?
That
What
makes
did
me
you
sound
want?
like such a degenerate. Like it wasn't that bad. I wasn't like.
Look at what.
I mean,
All right,
maybe I
you got to
was.
think how silly that is for you to say that you are now running Boston Cannabis Week with Common
Yeah,
Currency, Rock
it
Marciano,
tracks.
the
It does track.
Alchemist. That's what I'm saying. Is back then you didn't see what your future would hold.
No.
What did you think your future was?
At that time, my childhood was a little rocky at that times. Like I just, parents split up, had a lot of things going on in life. And I found music that I related to on a different level. And I grew up in a nice neighborhood, but my family in particular we didn't have a lot of what the other kids had. So I think like when I started listening to it, I related to so many of the things they were talking about. It was like I was hearing like Biggie talking about like not having food, and I was like, oh, we just got food from the church, like it like clicked, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, our power got shut off. It was like, oh, yeah, other people understand this,
yeah.
So there was this connection instantly to the music, and then I think that kind of also was the intro to cannabis early on. It was like there was something else that kind of helped things just smooth out a little bit, it didn't have to be so rocky. So I think that's kind of how all the things came together. Anyone who knows me from back then and knows me now would probably say it totally tracks that I'm the co-founder of Boston Cannabis
But
Week.
you didn't think it would.
Not then. No, definitely not.
Because I was the same way with rap.
Yeah.
I got a full tuition to Cushing Academy. It's a boarding
Yeah.
school. And I was with the richest people in the world. And I was living in like a $400 a month apartment with my mom.
Right.
And I was just like, I could relate to the music more than I could relate to the people around me.
That was definitely
That
it.
would be living at boarding school getting $5,000 a week to like, what are you doing with that money? Like,
Yeah, I didn't there was a lot of people that I grew up with that I couldn't relate to, but suddenly there was music and there was another lifestyle that I related to way more.
did you want to work in that when you were younger? Like at that age, did you want to?
No, at that age I thought I was gonna like do hair for a living. I loved playing with hair and like nails, and I'm like, oh, I should do that. Like I never in a million years thought. And even as my life progressed, so like I wasn't the best student all the way through high school. I kind of went to community college because my mom, like, she's like, you could do two things. You can go get a job or you can go to community college. I want you to go to community college. So if you don't do that, I'm going to bother you every day for the rest of your life. And I was like, all right, I might as well go do that. So I went to Nassau Community College on Long Island. And I remember the first class I took was a television production class. And I was like, people do this for a living? Like, this is crazy. So that was the first time that I got into school. And then I got my associate's degree, transferred to Quinnipiac University, studied communication there, got my bachelor's, and then went to work for MTV for a little while doing TV production.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I worked on like True Life and Cribs and
Cribs.
like, really?
Did you get to go to any cribs?
No, I was a production assistant. We were like
okay.
editing. I was doing editing.
Oh,
but,
all
like,
right.
I worked on the like Mariah Carey episode, which is like an infamous episode for being horrible people. And a bunch of others. And then after that, I was like, I need something a little bit more. And I actually got into the ad agency business from there, and because it was like media marketing, I understood all those things. And then working in the ad agency business, I did that for about 10 years. And then an agency in Boston moved me up here from New York to work for them. And I did that for a year and a half, and then decided to kind of switch gears and went out freelance. And I started working in radio and then started working in music. And then it was like from then on, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be working in music, obviously. Like it clicked like at that point. So it wasn't even really till I moved
clicked
to
at
Boston.
that point.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was really late.
What did you think you were going to be doing? I guess when you're living in New York.
I was doing like media buying and
But you weren't
campaigns.
thinking about like what your impact was.
Yeah, I had a whole other life like before that. Like married my high school sweetheart, we got divorced. Like it was like I had a different life. And then thank God I had.
Was that the like fake life? Like you were trying to be something?
No, I think if I had stayed in New York, that was the life I was supposed to live. I think the fact that I took a chance on doing something different and I left that, and I had the opportunity to come to Boston and work for this agency and just test it out. It literally was, I turned 30, and I said, you know what, I'm going to just say yes to everything. Like, I'm going to just have this year. And it was the year that my ex-husband and I separated. And I was like, I'm just going to try some new things out. And it was the first time I went camping. Loved that. Started going to shows all the time. Loved that. And got a job offer in Boston. I was like, all right, this is the year. Yes, I got to do it. And I did. And it was 2 weeks. I took the job, and it was like 2 weeks later, I had 5 suitcases, moved up here, stayed with a friend for like a month, and then got a place. And very soon I was like, I don't want to do the ad agency stuff anymore, which is funny because I'm like back to doing it now. Like, I do like freelance work from time to time. But there was a need for me to just go learn or figure something else out. And
Why did you start saying yes to shit?
Because things happen to your life when you say yes, as opposed to saying no out of fear. And I think a lot of people say no out of fear of the
To build a
unknown.
shell.
Yeah, it's like you protect yourself because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the world's going to be like. You don't know what the outcome could be.
And then if something goes wrong, you're like, well, that's a possibility now. So you don't want to say yes to it again, and you start building these layers. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, things can go wrong at any time. You know, we've been doing Boston Cannabis Week for 4 years. The anxiety or the stress of like, this has to be perfect still exists. It just because it's 4 years old doesn't mean that we're not trying to be better and be bigger and, you know, do what's right by all of our partners. Like, that's very front of mind for all of us.
But I think a lot of people are at that point in life where they're scared to make that decision you made.
Probably. I mean, when I told my family I was moving to Boston, they were like, first of all, I had a bunch of family calling me traitors because we're diehard Yankee fans. And they were like, you're a traitor. Like,
really?
A real traitor. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then my dad cried, which like he doesn't cry.
Just because it was, if you moved to like.
No, because I was leaving.
Oh, I thought he was such a Yankees fan. He was like, you're living.
It was like he was happy for me because he knew I had to do it. And at the same time, he was like, oh, you're leaving. Like, but it was the best thing for me.
Did you almost not do it? Or you were set that you were going to do it?
No, I think I needed something in my life. I needed to do something new. I was, you know, just recently separated from my ex-husband, and we had been together. We went to high school together. So we've been together 12 years. And I'm like, this is a new life. I got to figure some things out. And I wanted to come and just try something new. And I feel very strongly that if I had not said yes to that, all these other things in my life wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have launched Boston Cannabis Week. I wouldn't have gotten into music. I wouldn't have gotten into entertainment. I wouldn't have worked with all these artists and met all these wonderful people. So it was all part of my story and why all these things had to come together. And actually, I met my now husband at Bone Thugs and Harmony show working in Providence.
Did you?
Yeah, like I was working with Ned. We did a show in Providence. My now husband was running security, and I was just running around, and we like kept catching. We had like a brief interaction that first time. Then we had another show like 2 weeks later, and we kept catching each other's eye the whole night. And at the time, my boss was like, I don't know what's going on here, but this is work and you can't do that. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to have to do that now. So it literally led to like us getting together, and I didn't know I would end up marrying this man. And it, like that, I feel firmly that was the path I was supposed to be on. Like, I was supposed to be here, and I was supposed to meet my husband, and I was supposed to.
And the rap ties it all together. That's very funny. That is. No, I think people do try to hide from who they really are because of how they think other people would. Like me with this rap podcast. When I first started interviewing rappers, people didn't want me to. Like, they really didn't. They were like, why is this nerdy white dude? Like, and it wasn't even the rappers. It was just, like, why? And it was because I loved it.
Yeah.
Someone said to me once that if you don't know what your passion is, look at what you take a lot of pictures of on your phone.
Oh, that's good. That's smart.
It like, and I looked, and it was like a lot of rap concerts, and I just took the leap to start it because it's what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, the thing that scares you the most is the thing you probably should be doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like if you didn't move, you would have been in a life that you probably would have been fine with, very like
It would have
cookie
been
cutter.
okay, right? But it
Okay.
wasn't what it was meant to
Or
do.
you could take chances.
Right. Right. I was someone who had to take a chance, and I still continue to take chances, sometimes to my own detriment. Sometimes I take too many chances, but now I'm a little older. I'm a little bit more stable. I have a better understanding of how to run businesses. This was also Boston Cannabis Week was the third business I ran. It wasn't the first. And the first two, I learned a lot, but I had to make a lot of mistakes over the years to get to the point where I knew how to deal with what is happening now. A lot of people also make the mistake of, they have this idea, I'm going to launch my own company. I'm going to start and I love that, but I went and learned from the best first. You know what I mean? And so even on the music side of things, so I mentioned before, I was working for Leeds Edutainment, a few years back. When Boston Cannabis Week got too big, I couldn't handle the booking anymore because it was like I had this going on and this going on.
Did it get too big on the second year or the first?
Last year.
On the third.
The third year. It got too big for me to be able to handle all that on my own. So I called the person who I used to work for and who I learned booking from, Ned Welberry. And we had, at that time we weren't even like on the best of terms, but I just felt like we should have a conversation, and I hit him up. I'm like, should we chat? He's like, yeah, we should. And that conversation just led to him coming on board Boston Cannabis Week and handling the talent booking now. For mostly the festival. He also is working on the block party too. But the entire team behind Boston Cannabis Week are people who have been involved with the folks behind it in one way or another. And now we need a really solid crew to help make this all go. So we pulled in our team, and that's how it all goes.
What was the first year like?
Oh my God. Me and my business partner, Scott Bottano, we laugh about it now because I think we were naive as to what type of undertaking we were doing. It was like, we're just going to do this, right? And the first year, it was very hard to get any sponsors on board or partners. Like people weren't like writing checks to be involved or anything like that. But we managed to pull it out, and like all the events went pretty well. And then our music festival, we had Lupe Fiasco, Bia right before, like Rihanna tweeted about Bia the day after our festival, and it was like whoosh, she was out. We also had Lisa Bello, Jeannie Santiago, Marcella Cruz, Latrell James. So it was like pretty solid lineup. No Hugs, the Devil's Twins. It was a pretty solid lineup. But I look back on it now and I go, wow, like we were so naive as to like what we were actually doing. It was just like, well, we're going to just throw this together. And mind you, it wasn't thrown together because we had been planning it since 2016. So we'd been planning it for 3 years at that point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but
so it's 3 years from inception to
year one. Yeah. So even though this
when did you realize your naivete?
2 months ago when we were announcing the common lineup, and I was like, oh my God, like now, because this to me is heavy. It's like Common, Kersey, Rock Marciano, The Alchemist, Acrobatica, Double Apocalypse, like Dutcher Bill, DJ Slipwax. This is like a heavy lineup. And this lineup, like, and again, it's a collaborative effort. Ned is our booking agent. He is very involved in everything that we do. But like, there's a group of people that signs off on every artist that gets booked. So there's several of us that have to go, okay. And for the lineup you see here, there's another probably 10 artists that had offers that we didn't go through with for one reason or another.
Yeah.
We had different headliners at one point. We had different support artists at one point. Like it all keeps changing. So I think the day we were announcing this, I called Scott and I'm like, remember year one when it was just like, let's just throw tickets up. And it was so like, it was such a different mindset back then. But it's very recently, it's just now that I'm realizing that when you're booking artists like Common and Currency and you're bringing them to Boston for Boston Cannabis Week, you have a lot of eyeballs on you. Year one, we almost flew under the radar. It's like we did our event and we had a great show and we had a decent turnout for what we were doing.
Yeah.
But it was very under the radar compared to the exposure, the press involvement, the partner involvement, and the amount of people. Our team now has 20 people that make this whole thing go. And they dedicate their lives to it. Our promotions team was literally at the Wu-Tang show the other day in the parking lot handing out flyers. Like, we're all in. All of us are all in. We all want to make it work. And then having partners like Harbor House Collective and some of our partners who are returning, are not year one partners, have just been so supportive and want to see us win. And that's an amazing thing. And it's really nice to be a part of that.
Yeah. What kept you going year 2? Like, what kept?
So year 2, we were going into 2020, and I was like, and we were very, again, naive, like, oh, this COVID thing's going to go away. We'll be fine. And finally it was like 3 months before. And I said, Scott, I'm like, we got to call it, bro. Like, nothing is happening. No one's doing anything. And he goes, all right, let's just do a week of virtual events. And I was like, all right. So it wasn't like we just stopped and took a break. We switched to a completely virtual format. We also thought that everybody was burnt out on Zoom and virtual. We're like, is anyone even going to care that we're doing this? And what ended up happening was we got about 30,000 attendees from around the country on our virtual programming. So like, we started getting an audience way outside Boston, and all of a sudden,
do you know how?
It was just by virtue of having something interesting, cannabis related, that was available in a streaming format. And people started paying attention. Then all of a sudden I was like, wow, we got to keep something virtual, because there's people outside of Boston are paying attention. Now, this year, there's Rove is sending out, their whole team is coming from San Francisco. PAX's team is coming from San Francisco.
Wow.
Respect My Region is coming out from LA. We have folks coming from Florida, Texas. Like, people fly in from all over the country to come to Boston Cannabis Week. The hotel where year 1, we just had a few rooms, is now sells out every single year just for our event alone. And now we have like other hotel partners we're having to approach to like just have room for all these people.
Yeah.
So now we've become a hospitality and tourism destination almost, which I don't think we planned that early on. It was just like, we're going to just see where this goes. But my partner, Scott, he was the one who had this idea for Boston Cannabis Week. And he was the one who, he had, in a former life of his, was very involved in Fashion Week. And so he had a vision that it was going to be more like that it was, and now this year we've expanded programming. We have 12 events happening virtually and in person. So now it feels more like that. There's so many different things happening in so many other areas all over. We're in Methuen, we're in Boston, we're in Hyde Park, we're in like everywhere you could possibly think of. So and this year,
6 years after the initial thought.
Are we 6 years? Yeah, about that. Yeah.
I see that
7 years.
I see that as a congratulations, because I think people think stuff comes easy. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like they think how you thought in the beginning.
Right. Oh, we'll just do it.
And then it doesn't work, and then sometimes people just give up.
Right.
But it's 7 years, and now you're still talking about it with like a passion and a love. And
yeah, because this is what we do. It's funny. Now I have a daughter who's 13, and she's just like, I can't wait for BCW to be over.
Oh, really?
Just because she's like, she misses our weekends and our like, she wants to go play.
She probably doesn't think weed's cool.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like,
she's like, you.
She has a totally different. So it was funny because actually going to the Wu-Tang show the other day. So first she's like, can I come? I'm like, no, you're staying home. It's like my night out. So, but she was home, and I put on my Wu-Tang t-shirt, and I'm like getting ready to go out the door, and I have my big gold hoop earrings on. And she's like, what's this fit? And I'm like, you don't like my outfit? She goes, I don't know how I feel about you in a Wu-Tang shirt. I'm like, let me explain something to you. I've been listening to Wu-Tang since I was your age. Okay. So she looks at me like, she rolls her eyes. She doesn't think it's cool at all. We have a fun game we play where it's called Guess the Followers, or we'll go back and forth about the music she really likes and the music I really like, and who has higher Spotify followers.
Oh,
It's
okay.
silly, but she'll go.
I thought you were gonna say Instagram followers because a lot of that's bought.
Sometimes
A lot
Instagram,
of that's
but
bought.
it's mostly Spotify.
Spotify's a good way to
It's a
judge
good
the.
Some of the music we do, like I took her to see The Weeknd at Gillette. She was totally into that. She loved it.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff we do vibes on. Some of the other stuff, like we do not. Like she loves like Lil TJ, like Polo G, like YNW Melly. And I can't, I listen to it and I'm like, I don't understand what they're saying.
I like that stuff too. I like that stuff too.
Is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. Let me say, they sent me the precision package, and life is so much better with aerodynamic balls. It includes the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, the Lawnmower 4.0 Trimmer, the Weed Whacker Ear and Nose Hair Trimmer, the Crop Reviver Toner, the Performance Boxer Briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies. Join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code BUCKEDUP at manscaped.com. That's right, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code BUCKEDUP at manscaped.com. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and also has a 4,000 watt LED spotlight that you need for a more precise shave. Because this trimmer is waterproof, you can say goodbye to the mess on your bathroom floor. Get 20% off and free worldwide shipping on manscaped.com when you use code BUCKEDUP. Again, that's 20% off and free worldwide shipping when you use code BUCKEDUP. Let's get back into it.
But I like the old, yeah.
Like, she's like, you listen to old people rap. I'm like, oh, you're so rude.
Because it's a new art form. It's like
It
when
is.
you
It's
were
different.
listening to it, that was like kind of,
Right.
it was only around for what, 10, 15 years at
It
that
was
point.
very new.
Yeah.
I got like Doggy Style and Enter the 36 Chambers. My mother took away. She's like, this is vile. What they're saying is horrible. And she took it away. And I remember like begging her. I was like, please let me get it back. I'm just going to go to Tower Records and buy a new one. She's like, just let me have that back.
That's so
Sam Goody at that time. Like it's a minute. That's how old I am. You know, that's where I used to buy music.
Isn't that how it's funny though? Because like when you were a kid, weed was like, what the fuck? Like you had to hide it. Right.
Yeah, people were still getting arrested.
But you wanted to smoke it more. Like now with your daughter, it's so open, and she's like, "Oh, there's mom with her weed again."
It's not really, because like I'm not like that at home. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's more
yeah, because we were talking
work.
about this beforehand. Yeah, what's your relationship with weed and how has it changed?
Working in the cannabis industry changes how you feel about cannabis. Just like working in the music industry for so long, you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to be in a nightclub at 2 a.m. I actually got offered an opportunity to manage a new venue who was opening in Providence. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to. I don't want to be in a club till 2, 3 in the morning. I don't want to deal with the chaos and the riders and the angry and the drunk. And I don't want to deal with it. The cannabis industry is almost the same way, whereas like now this is work to me. It's lost. It not that it's lost its appeal. It's just, it means something different to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the benefits that I see for cannabis are mostly medicinal and functional in people's lives. Whereas like I was a kid seeing people go to jail, some of which are still locked up, which is another whole thing we can talk about.
Yeah.
But people went to real jail for this.
Still in real
And
jail
are
from
still
the
in jail. So
and we're in a dispensary right
we're
now with it.
right,
Like,
recording a podcast in a dispensary. Well,
I'm stoned as hell.
I'm not, but I'm glad you are. But it's literally like we're sitting in a location where people are celebrating and selling it, and we are completely within our rights of the law, and we're not doing anything illegal. But there are still people sitting in a jail cell for this, and that's from that time. So even though we've come so far, we've only come so far.
Yeah.
There's still a lot more work that needs to be done. And at part of Boston Cannabis Week, we're working with Big Hope Project. They're doing an expungement clinic, full day expungement clinics. You can go to bostoncannabisweek.com and register, and they'll send you the information. But we're trying to like do the things we're supposed to do and help make a difference. And we're very minded of who our community is and who is at the forefront of our organization. You know, Boston Cannabis Week is a women-run company, a women-owned company. We understand the rights we have been afforded, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our community. And that's what Boston Cannabis Week is about. We never charge for education or networking. Even our music festival, we try to do an affordable ticket if possible. We give away tons of free tickets because we want to be about the community, and we feel like we're community based, and support from other organizations is the only reason we've grown to where we are now.
Why do you think there's still people locked up for?
Because it's a business. Because this whole thing is a business. People in jail make other people money. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion, but
It's true.
it's true. Hopefully one day we'll get away from that, but we have a very flawed legal system. And unfortunately, we still live in a day and a place and a world where the color of my skin affords me opportunities that it doesn't to other people. So I feel obligated to help fix that and change that. Boston Cannabis Week is one of the ways that we're trying to do that. Even with, you know, with our vendor spots, we give away a lot of vendor spots. If a vendor comes to us and they're like, how much is it to set up at your event? And I go, here it is. And they go, I can't afford that. I say, okay, what can you afford? Now I can't do that for, you know, everybody, but I don't want anyone to be excluded. And also with our BCW has a scholarship program where we award SEE applicants and minority owned businesses sponsorship in the form of Boston Cannabis Week sponsorship. So we seek out businesses that we think are doing good work in the community, and we will give them a spot at every event. We try to give them promotional platforms. We introduce them to people that we think helps their brand. And then they can also use our internal team as resources. So this year we have Darrell Black with Let's Talk Weed is one of our scholarship recipients. And a new dispensary coming on board, Stone's Throw Cannabis is another one of our scholarship recipients. So they'll be, you know, at events throughout the week. But it's important for us to be doing these things that are actually impactful for the community. Otherwise,
it is important
what are we
because
doing? Yeah.
people don't think about generational wealth in that way too.
Right.
How hard it is, the amount of bankroll you need to start anything. And the farther you get into it, the more you realize, oh, a lot of people are making it because of the bankroll they have. And a lot of people don't have those opportunities because of where they came up or because of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Racism, it's.
Yeah. And don't get it twisted. With Boston Cannabis Week, it's the same thing. We didn't have $1 to our names when we launched this. Literally $0 in the bank. This all happens because we had a vision, we had a dream, and we knew how to organize in a way that we could figure out how to make money. And that's what it's been. And this has been partner supported since day one.
And that's why it comes across as authentic, and that's why it works. And that's why 7 years later, you're still doing it, because it's about the idea. It's not about the outcome.
Right.
You have to start, like when I was saying about just start, you kind of just have to start and figure out the path you just have to start on the path and the end will find you.
Right.
I started this with no money, but it's just the belief in yourself and your idea that it will work out, because that's really what it is in the end.
Right.
Because money will get you so far.
It will get you so far.
You were talking about the music that your daughter listens to. Like,
yes.
I'm not going to name any of those artists again, because I'm not talking about those artists. But you see artists that blow up for a couple of years because they have big financial backings. Right. And then you see artists like Currency, who's been around since
He's
the
a staple.
90s now, and he's a
Right.
staple, and it's because it didn't matter that he didn't have any #1 hits
Right.
throughout. He just had in his idea and he
Right.
stuck with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, no shade to any of those artists that my daughter loves. It's just
No.
different. It's generationally different. And that's fine because it was for me too, right? Like my parents didn't listen to what I listened to. They probably said the same thing. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember the day Tupac died. I remember my dad picked me up to go to a Knicks game, and I was like sobbing. And he's like, "Why are you so sad?" I'm like, "Tupac died," and he's like, "Did you?" He's okay. So like he didn't. It wasn't the same sense of loss.
Yeah.
And for us, like to your point and what you were saying before, like if you don't have the support of the community or outside players, you have a shelf life. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And there's way more cannabis events now than there were in 2019. So we do a proof of concept. We were one of the first to market. We were not the first by any means. I'm not saying that. But in terms of a week of programmed events, we were the first to do that here. And in fact, another company did come that's not from this part of the world, came here and hosted some events, and they were calling themselves Boston's first cannabis week. And our lawyers let them know that was not the case, that Boston Cannabis Week had just happened. And actually, we were fortunate enough to be featured in Rolling Stone year 1 for our work in social equity and economic empowerment in Massachusetts. So like sent the article along, they were like, Rolling Stone says we're legit. There it is. So
how'd that feel to have Rolling Stone write an article about your first year?
It's still insane to this day. I still go, how did that even, like, why do they even care what we're doing? But
why do you think they care about what you're doing?
Because it's different, because it's cannabis, because it's past the norm of what people are expected to do, I think.
Why is what you guys do different?
We're not just a festival. Yeah, the festival's a big part of it. And of course, it's one of the most notable parts of it. But when you look at all of the offerings and all of the people involved and all of the different ways to become involved with Boston Cannabis Week. So, to give you like a snapshot into what my email inbox looks like, it's like we have people reach out and they want to sponsor, and I love that. We have people reach out and they want to come vend, and I love that. We have people reach out and say, I don't know what I can bring to the table, but I just want to be involved. And I love that too. And I'll say, hey, like either just come to these events, or can I give you some free tickets to this event? Or like, just put it on your socials that you're going to come down and be a part of it. So like, I try to find a way for everyone to be involved. I don't think everyone is trying to do that. Like, it's like, we're trying to lower the barriers to entry here. And that's not necessarily the case with everybody. And that's okay. It's like, there's room for all of us to win. I don't look at it and go, oh, well, there's this event and there's this event, but we do this differently. I honestly think there's an audience for all of these events to happen.
Yeah.
And now what we're seeing, and we knew we would see this, was before and after Boston Cannabis Week, a lot of events are happening locally because of the amount of people traveling from around the country. And then we're also seeing more people starting to host like underground pop-up events during the week.
How does that make you feel?
So part of it is like flattering, it's like, oh, well, okay, cool. And I don't have a problem with it. What I don't like,
as I crack that right into the microphone.
What I'm not thrilled about is when I see people like trying to host their own events during Boston Cannabis Week using the hashtag Boston Cannabis Week. And it's like, they're trying to make money off of people. It's like, if you're trying to do something that's cool and you're inviting people and you're providing a platform, I'm cool with that. If you're just trying to make money because all these people are coming in from around the country to come be part of Boston Cannabis Week, I think there's a better way to go about that.
Yeah. I think the reason I asked that is when I first started getting some success of the podcast, I realized that there were a lot of podcasts that started doing what I was doing. And at first I kind of got mad. But then I was like, no, like it's a flattery thing. Yeah. And I was doing it first. Like there's the proof of concept. And it keeps me going because it's like, oh, if I'm doing, so many other people want to try to do what I'm doing, that means that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. absolutely. And, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And we are in Massachusetts and we're in Boston. Like, this city is known for the crabs in a barrel mentality. It's like there's a lot of you can't win and I can't win at the same time. Only one of us can win.
Is that real?
In the music industry,
Because that's so funny. Because that's how it is in Boston comedy.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just a comedy thing.
No. And I'm saying this as someone who's a transplant from New York to Boston, right?
Yeah.
That mentality exists here in a very different way. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. Maybe it's the size of the city, but through the music industry and now the cannabis industry, there's still a mentality of we can't both win. It has to be one or the other.
I think about that a lot. That thing where why it is the size of the city, because it's a big enough city that it can have its own scene,
Right.
but the people in it are too scared to leave.
Right.
They're too scared to drive the 4 hours to New York, or the 5 hours to Philly, or the 6 hours to Rochester and Buffalo,
Right.
or the 13 hours to Detroit. Like, they're too scared to leave the city and then come back.
Right.
We are doing this in a dispensary.
I know.
People walking by.
But that's
We're
great,
in.
though. That's great, though. It's wonderful to be in a like, this wasn't always, you couldn't always do this. You couldn't always be sitting in a dispensary talking on a podcast about cannabis. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't a thing. So it's wonderful that it's a thing now.
Or what were we talking about before? I couldn't figure out the door and I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about Boston. City.
But it is. I really do think people need to leave and then come back.
Yeah.
To see
Wherever
that
you're
it's
from.
not the scene, or like there's
Right.
other scenes that you can be a part of.
I think that's good to do wherever you're from. Honestly, you learn different perspective when you get to leave your bubble and go to another part of the world. And
it took you said you were 30 when you decided to leave, but I think a lot of people at that point, so I'm 25, but I feel like a lot of people at 30 think that's what their life is going
like,
to.
you're just settled into it at 30 and that's it. But that's not the case.
That's not even
No.
that's not even half your life.
No. And I'll be honest, like, I started figuring stuff out at 40. I'm 41 now. Like, I feel like just new to figuring things out. Even in my 30s, I was still like,
When you started to lose passion, or when you did feel like it was becoming a business, like, what keeps you going? What do you tell yourself? What do you?
well, at this point, because I do have my moments where I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, Boston Cannabis Week specifically is much bigger than me. It in a way, it almost has nothing to do with Scott or I at this point. We have a large team of people who are employed and work and they all make it go. It could not be done with just Scott and I at this point. And beyond that, there are partners, brands who now like utilize Boston Cannabis Week to help their businesses grow and connect with new people. And, a lot of our partners come on board with we'll say to them, well, what's your focus? Is it wholesale? Is it retail? Is it end users? Like, do you want to talk to the consumers? And that's where we know where to put them. Like, that's, but it is our mission to make sure they come out of Boston Cannabis Week with more than they came into it with. So at this point, it's not that I'm just a body in a chair, but BCW can have another CEO that would do just as good of a job. And it's funny, I had way back when I had a boss who said to me, you're an entrepreneur. The best thing you can do is train people to replace you.
Today's episode is sponsored by Om with Emily. Emily is a meditation and yoga teacher, as well as an astrology and tarot reader. She uses yoga and spirituality to help others reconnect with their true self. She offers in-person and virtual one-on-one sessions for all experience levels. Find her online at omwithemily.com. That's OM-WITH-EMILY.com, or on IG at om.with.emily. DM her on IG and mention Bucked Up and she'll send you a free guided meditation. That's right, mention Bucked Up and she'll send you a free guided meditation. You can find her on IG at om.with.emily. Let's get back into it.
I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, why would I want anyone to replace me? Now I understand what that means. It means that this thing that we co-founded is way bigger than either one of us. And at some point, not anytime soon, I hope, but at some point there'll be someone else sitting in my seat doing my job and making it be even bigger than it is now, So I think you have to be willing to put your ego away. And that's a tough lesson.
Yeah.
That's a tough lesson to learn.
Someone I forget who it is, but someone once told me like half of it is you're doing it for yourself, but once you get like half of it is you're doing it for the others too, and you really can't forget about the people that you're doing it for.
Yeah. Right. And now at this point, like I have a daughter and I think about like, and it's funny because I was like, well, one day you'll run this. She goes, I don't want this.
It's like opening a pizza shop. It's for you.
And she literally the other day, the first time she said maybe, she's like, well, can I book little TJ? And I was like, well, maybe. I was like, I think once I'm retired. And actually we were on a conference call with our booking team. So Ned was on the call and I was like, ask him. So she got on the call. She's like, Ned, I would like to book little TJ. So he goes, I guess next year. That's who we're. I'm like, no, not next year. But like that's the only way she has any interest in it.
Yeah.
To her and Scott's kids, because we're very family business. So like we're around each other and each other's kids all the time. His kids have said to him, Dad, I don't want to sell weed, and he's like, what do you think we do? Like we don't sell weed. This is an event business. It's a marketing business, but they don't have the same outlook on it. Like they look like to your point before, they don't look at this like it's cool.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you guys are so old and annoying. Like literally.
What do you see? Like, what do you see in your future for this? Like, are you just going with the flow, or do you have like a plan that you?
It's always a plan. I think, next year is year 5. It's going to be a pivotal year for us. We have some ideas about what growth is going to mean next year and what the next steps for us look like. One of the things that we've struggled with, the venues are all over Boston, right? In Massachusetts. We've continued to outgrow them all. And even going into this year, we're like the golf tournament was sold out 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So we have a wait list of 10 golf foursomes. The music festival, we love working with Underground at Ink Block. But at some point we're going to have to go to a bigger venue where we could sell more tickets. So this year is very important just as a follow-up to last year. But next year, going into year 5 is going to be a pivotal year where we're making some big changes.
How long do you plan ahead of the event?
So we start
Are you
planning.
like Santa Claus? Do you do it December 26th?
No.
Or do you...
So believe it or not, we're actually on a 15-month planning cycle. So we started planning BCW 2023 2 months ago. Very preliminary, right? Like, because we're in the heavy lifting, right? So you can only do so much. But we were starting to think about the changes for next year 2 months ago. We've already started outlining what some of those are. The other day I said our booking team, I was like, what about this? Like as a headliner for next year. So it takes 15 months to plan the whole week. Knowing that. So every year Scott and I go, all right, the 3 days after Boston Cannabis Week, don't talk to us. There has not been one year yet where Sunday, everything ends. We pack up, trucks are packed up, the vendors are packed up, we're home, everything's dropped off. And I sit on the couch and I text him, what about this? It happens every year. So as much as we try to put it down when it's done, It's very hard for us.
Doesn't that show you still like it though? Like
It
you
does.
still,
It does.
if you were like, I just get like, I can't even like, you're like, no, I'm
Yeah.
still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Even
So the full cycle of planning the whole thing takes 15 months. And that is like programming, partnerships, planning decks, meetings, permits, all of these things happening together. Takes about that long.
wow.
Yeah.
Where do you see it in 5 years?
In 5 years, I think just on the trajectory we are now, where we're going, I think we're going to be, one of the biggest cannabis events in the country. I hope to be. We're going to continue on our mission to normalize cannabis in our communities and provide resources for people. We're in this place now where other very notable cannabis events know who we are, like I very recently got to speak to the owner of Hall of Flowers, and I was like, oh, you guys did such a great job. He's like, we're coming to Boston Cannabis Week. I'm like,
Wow.
you are? It's so like there's still times like that it still hits me. So I think the plan for 5 years out is we want to continue to nurture our relationships here, grow. I think
Leave Boston, or is it always?
I mean, we're Boston Cannabis Week. I think we're always going to be Boston Cannabis Week, even though some of our, like the golf tournament happens in Methuen. We aren't necessarily in just Boston, but
You're not trying to grow it to like you guys run Detroit Cannabis Week. Or...
I'm never going to say no, because you don't know what happens down the road. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, do you think you'll ever move to Massachusetts? I'd be like, fuck no.
And run the biggest weed.
That was not me. So I don't want to ever say no to anything. Right now I'm worried about Boston. Let's see what happens after Boston.
Where do you think weed's going to be in 5 years?
Honestly,
cannabis. People don't call it weed.
It's cannabis.
It's
I know.
cannabis.
It's so strange.
My mom says pot, and it sounds so like,
My
like,
dad
are you
does
smoking
too.
pot? And it's just like, it's harsh. It's
Yeah.
a harsh word.
That's so funny.
What do you think cannabis is going to be in 5 years?
We've been trying. Everybody's been working so hard to change the legislation, to normalize it, to make it part of our normal everyday life. I think we're going to get to a point where federally we're going to legalize. The government's going to figure out how to continue to tax it federally. Things are going to start to move in a direction where it becomes super accessible, like beer or wine is.
Yeah.
I do think we're going to get there at some point. I think it might take a little while. We're not there yet. We're getting close. For us, it's like, we'll know that we're in a different space when banking isn't an issue. And when, those type of things.
Is that hard for you? Like,
oh, so hard. So hard. We are not. Okay. So here's the difference, right? So dispensary is a plant facing business, right? They touch the plant, they sell the plant, they cultivate, they trim, whatever. We are not a plant facing business. We are an events business that happens to work in cannabis, but the banks hold us to almost the same standards as the dispensaries. So we've had, I want to say like 5 bank accounts over the past 2 years, just because one bank bought out another bank, then this bank closed our account, and this bank said no to cannabis all of a sudden. So they're like, go to this bank. We've lost payment processors and all sorts of things, and we do not touch the plant, but we take money from dispensaries who are partnering or sponsoring or, part of the event in some way. So that's made us,
I didn't even think about that until you said
problem.
it. And now it's like, oh my, it is a problem. Yeah.
So cannabis banks, and this is all very new, and there are certain people I work with that have a better understanding of it, but they have a whole different set of rules than just regular banks, right? Than just any other type of spot.
Mm-hmm.
So when I cash,
because in the eyes of the government, it's like a drug bank,
right?
Yeah.
When I cash a check at this bank, or our bank now, there's a whole, like, they do an audit on every transaction. So I have to report where it came from. I have to show an invoice for where it came from.
You have to be extra careful about not. Yeah.
We have to be doubly buttoned up, even though I don't touch the plant. I don't sell the plant. Just the fact that I accept money from dispensaries for sponsorship and for events and for partnership and all these things puts us in that category.
Was that the hardest thing to like deal with? That you didn't?
One of them.
Yeah.
One of them. Just because like we don't have $1 million bankroll. You know, if we have an issue with the bank and a few $1,000s is getting holed up, that's a big problem for us. So last year we had a situation the week of Boston Cannabis Week where we had a $15,000 vendor payment returned. So it was, you know, we still deal with a lot of that stuff. Like I said, it's getting much better. But I think we'll get there. And I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see like, you know, you're going to have like mainstream banks promoting cannabis. It's, you know, like think about it. It's crazy to think about, but I think we're going to get there. I do. It's just going to take a minute.
Man, I'm excited for Boston Cannabis Week. I really am. Do you want to do like a final plug for it before we wrap up?
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, this was an awesome conversation.
Myself and my whole team, we're just so grateful for the support. And I am very grateful to my entire team that makes this go. Literally, like one person's doing a venue walkthrough right now, another person's grabbing product from grabbing swag from a dispensary. Like everyone's running around getting all the last minute things done. But you can go to bostoncannabisweek.com, check out all of the events for the week. Education networking, almost all of our events are completely free. You just need to register at our website. The music festival is ticketed, but we do have affordable pricing for that event. Tickets are on sale right now.
Common Currency, Alchemist, Rock
Marciano.
Marciano.
Yep, Rock Marciano, The Alchemist, Dub Apocalypse with Acrobatic, Dutch Rebel, DJ Slipwax. I don't know if anyone knows. You guys know DJ Slipwax?
No, I don't.
He is a staple in Massachusetts. In the hip hop community here. He
I'm
is
gonna have to check him out.
Scratch master. He is incredible. I saw DJ Qbert like staring at him open jawed.
All right, I'm gonna have to check him out.
You know, so like that was really important for us to also. Our festival's called Experience Boston because we want it to feel like here. So having DJ Slipwax and Acrobatic and Dutch Rebel and these staples of the music community here are really important to our lineup. Friday we have performing Soul Rebel Project headlining. We have Green Lion Crew. We have WTF, We the Females performing. So it's really a full week of just fun and entertainment and community and networking and education. Run you through the week real quick. Monday morning is our golf tournament. Monday evening we do Science Over Stigma panel with Seed and MCR Labs. Tuesday is a full day of education. In the morning, we start off with our veteran wellness breakfast. We invite all veterans to come down, have breakfast with us. We're going to have all sorts of resources available to you. Then a full day of education. We're talking about cannabis and pregnancy, CBD and movement, workplace culture, legacy market transition, all really interesting topics. Wow. Wednesday is Fashion on Fire, our fashion and glass art gallery. Thursday is our we have virtual networking at 1:00. Then we're doing a Boston Cannabis Week edition of Let's Talk Weed with Darrell Black at 4:00. Then we are doing our industry mixer which is sold every year. It's at capacity. So we moved it over. We're at Big Night Live this year.
Oh, really?
So and then Friday is our block party. Saturday is the music festival, and Sunday we have self-care Sunday brunch. So we're just gonna get massages and eat.
That's and maybe smoke a little weed.
Whatever works for you.
That's awesome. I can't wait for it. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're very busy, so I appreciate your time. Thank you so much to Harbor House for letting us record here. They have amazing products. Their dispensary is beautiful, and everyone should go check it out.
Yes, thank you, Harbor House Collective, for supporting Boston Cannabis Week. We really appreciate it.
Yes, and Bucked Up. Thank you guys all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Yeah.